Let's finish by quickly covering 10 IDE use tips which you're likely to find super helpful. If you have a code statement that's really long, you'll have to scroll to the right to see it and understand it in its entirety. That can be really annoying since you then have to scroll back, and it's just easier to keep scrolling down when you need to review your code. Instead of that, while you are typing up your code and you reach the end of your viewable screen, follow up the last term with a space, then add in the underscore character. This instructs the application to read the next line underneath it as if it were a continuation of the line above. 2. Combine short commands together to make code more readable. The colon character works in the opposite way to the underscore. It allows you to bring in two statements which syntactically should be presented on separate lines onto the same line. The colon tells the application that it has reached the end of a statement and what follows after is a new one. Now, code usually benefits from being broken up rather than strung together, so I only really use this feature for simple statements like this. 3. Navigating between multiple procedures. If your module has a fair number of procedures, you can use Control and Page Up or Page Down to jump the active cursor between procedures without having to step through them line by line. Similarly, Control and Home takes your cursor to the first line in the whole module. Another way to navigate between multiple procedures is to use this drop-down box which is located in the upper right of your code window. You'll see it provides a list of all the procedures declared in a given module. Clicking on any one of them takes you to the first line instantly, and that's handy once your project gets big. Note that only procedures declared in the current module are listed here. Next up are viewing variable definitions. If a variable is not working as you expect, you can check how it was defined by highlighting it, then using the shortcut Shift plus F2. This takes you back to the declaration statement for that variable where its type is defined. If no declaration was provided, and that's bad practice, you'll get an error window instead. From there, you can use Ctrl plus Shift plus F2 to return right back to where you were without losing your place. If you're following a type-linked naming convention for your variables as I've suggested, you won't need to make use of this very much, but hey, I'm throwing it in. 6. Power editing with find and replace. Strict and systematic labeling has other uses too. They allow you to locate entire groups of variables of interest using Ctrl F. And you can also use the find and replace function more efficiently or expansively. You can access it with the shortcut Ctrl plus H. With this feature, you can replace all instances of a mistyped variable or replace them with a new label. Critically, with these features, you're given the option to apply the search in selected text, the current procedure, the current module, or the entire project. Always check those settings before you replace something. You can undo a multiple replacement action with a single undo action using Ctrl Z, but your nerves will still fire off, and if you don't spot it, your code could be seriously messed up. 7. Watch out for your Excel redo shortcut key habits. If you use shortcuts whenever you can, as you should, your muscle memory may have absorbed the redo hotkey combo from the main Excel application, which redoes a previously undone action using Ctrl and Y. Not in the VBA editor. It does something so different it's almost comical. It deletes entire lines of code. Now, once you've reprogrammed your own brain to remember that this Ctrl Y is different to the one in Excel, you'll find that it does save you time to use it. Other text edit shortcuts, thankfully, remain the same. Ctrl C for copy, Ctrl X for cut, Ctrl V for paste. 8. Stepping over procedures. We've seen how important breakpoints and break mode are to your work. It turns out there are a couple of super useful upgrades to the step-through key, F8, which you'll be very thankful to know. We've seen you can nest procedure calls inside other procedures. If you're debugging a procedure and you get to the line where another one is called, but you already trust that that procedure doesn't need any reviewing, you can step over it by using the shortcut Shift plus F8. This executes that procedure call in its entirety in run mode, and the IDE then returns to break mode in the next line. You're welcome. 9. Stepping out of procedures. Yes, you can also step out of a procedure using Ctrl plus Shift plus F8. This shortcut executes the remaining line of the procedure in progress in run mode, with the IDE returning to break mode once it steps out to the next procedure in the call stack. In other words, the procedure which has called the one you just stepped out of. Step over and step out are godsends for saving you time, and believe me, there are lots of occasional VBA users who do not know they exist. And last is using the option explicit statement in your modules. This is more of a best practice tip, but it makes most sense to introduce it here. You'll see me add this statement to the top of each module. It instructs the IDE to raise errors anytime the editor finds a term it interprets as a variable, but which has not been given a dedicated declaration statement. This is just a bit of extra support. You should be declaring your variables all the time. Variables which are not declared are more likely to be mismanaged and may not present in the locals window or the IntelliSense prompt. And on top of that, they are assigned memory inefficient data types. Always declare your variables.